Welcome children to the online class. We'll continue with atmospheric pressure and winds. We will continue with page number 113, wind system of the earth. The varying amount of isolation received on the earth's surface bring about the differential heating of the earth. Thus, two main factors, distribution of insolation and the motion of the earth, are responsible for the phenomenon which brings about changes in weather and climate. For example, wind system, pressure belts and ocean currents. It has been explained in earlier chapter how tropical region receive more isolation than temperate region. Thus, there is a latitudinal imbalance in the heat budget of the earth. As we go towards the pole, the amount of isolation received decreases. Therefore, winds are the means by which atmosphere tries to balance out of uneven distribution of temperature over the earth's surface. In the absence of planetary wind system, it would have been impossible to compensate for the unequal distribution in the atmosphere of incoming solar energy and the loss of Earth's radiation. Besides, winds also carry water vapor from the bodies of water and water to land surface. But for the wind, the equatorial region are progressively hotter and the polar regions are progressively cooler. Wind system classification. Wind movement in the atmosphere. See figure 13.5. Children, please draw in the map this. Please buy maps and draw this figure 13.5. Primary circulation is related directly to the general arrangement of pressure belts and are also known as permanent winds. Trade winds, westerlies and polar easterlies. It is the primary circulation which prepares the broad framework for the other circulation pattern. Secondary circulation consists of periodic and seasonal wind, namely land and sea breeze, monsoon, cyclone and anticyclones. Tertiary circulation includes all local and variable winds which are produced by local cause and which only affect the weather and climate of a particular locality or area. Types of winds. Permanent winds. First is trade winds. Trade winds are the surface wind which move from the horse latitude to the doldrum. In the northern hemisphere, they are the northeast trade, and in the southern hemisphere, the southeast trade. The winds are named by the direction from which they blow. For example, west winds blow from the west towards the east. Northeast wind blows from the northeast towards the southwest. Anti-trade winds or westerlies. The westerly winds which blow with great frequency and regularity in region lying on the polarward side of the subtropical high pressure area of horse latitude are known as anti-trade winds or westerlies. The area in which they blow are often known as the region of the western lights. The prevailing wind direction of the anti-trade winds in the northern hemisphere is from the southern west and in the southern hemisphere to the northwest. In winter, they move southward due to the shifting of pressure belts in the northern hemisphere, affecting the Mediterranean region, bringing the rain to these areas. These winds derive their names from the prevailing direction. They blow opposite to the direction of trade winds and are thus known as the anti-trade winds. In winter, the North Atlantic Ocean is probably the stormiest region in the world, but in summer the winds and weather are much less violent. In the southern hemisphere, on the other hand, the westerly blows with great strength and regularity throughout the year between 40 degree and 50 degrees south and have been given the name roaring 40s and furious 50s because they faced almost no obstruction. In the polar region, children, in the northern hemisphere, we have the winds which are called roaring 40s and furious 50s. They will take away each and every particles which comes in their area. The polar eastern lights. These winds blow from 75 degrees to 90 degrees north and south. As the air moves towards equator, it is deflated to the left, and so a belt of wind results spiralingly from the polar region in an easterly direction. These polar winds are extremely irregular. These winds are extremely cold in general. In northern hemisphere, they blow from northeast, whereas in the southern hemisphere from the southeast. Permanent winds and periodic winds. Permanent winds blow regularly in the same direction in certain latitudinal zone corresponding to the major pressure belts of the world. They are also called planetary winds or prevailing winds. Periodic winds. Periodic winds are winds which blow in certain periods of the day or certain season only. These winds develop as a result of variation in local temperature, pressure and humidity. Example, land and sea breeze and monsoon wind are called periodic winds. So children, season shifting of pressure belt. The earth revolves on its orbit around the sun in 365 days. The earth is inclined on its axis at an angle of 23.5 degree. Thus, the relatively position of the earth with the sun changes. At the time of summer solstice, the sun is vertical over the Tropic of Cancer. June 21st is the summer solstice, and therefore all the pressure belt except the northern polar high pressure belt shift northward. In the northern hemisphere, the equatorial low pressure belt prevail between 0 degree latitude equator children, you know 0 degree it is, and in 10 degree north latitude, and the subtropical belt extends between 30 degree and 40 degree north latitude. See the figure 13.7. Please draw this diagram 13.7 children in your books, and 13.6 also. Thus, all the wind belts associated with the pressure belt also shift northward. The sun becomes vertical over the equator at the time of autumnal equinox, September 23, and hence all the pressure belts which shift to the north occupies their normal position. After autumn equinox, there is southward margin of the sun which becomes vertical over the Tropic of Capricorn at the time of winter solstice, December 23rd, and hence the pressure and the wind belts shift toward southwards except in the southern polar high pressure belt. Thereafter, the sun is overhead over the equator at the time of spring, vernal equinox, March 21st, and hence all the pressures and wind belt occupy their normal position. Thus, there is shifting in the position of pressures and wind belts due to seasonal change of position of the earth in the relation to the sun. These seasonal changes in the relative position of the pressure and the wind belt influence the area of the Mediterranean climate and the position of the western lights, which move northward in the summer season, June, and southward in the winter, December season. The summer and the winter monsoon and the complete reversal of the wind direction are also the result of shifts of wind and pressure belt. Both the trade and anti-trade winds are thus closely influenced by the shifts in pressure belt. In addition, high-speed upper atmospheric air currents known as jet stream and occasional atmospheric ocean currents, coupling even known as El Nino, also affect the permanent wind in subtropical latitudes. So children, till here we finish our third part of the video. We will continue in the next part of the video. Thank you children.